I tell you what, Miss Rachel always takes time my question. She always walks you through. It just costs me extra $1. Make sure you got $2 for the price of one, then you got a great contract.
These are the original cabinet doors from some installed curios that are upstairs. They're almost 100 years old.
One thing that I always try to do is convince the client as far as to keep some of those historical aspects of the property. Ornate crown plastered molding is in a sense a dying breed. It's very expensive as far as to replicate and so on and so forth. So when I see a contractor go in and gut perfectly fine plastered molding, it burns my soul.
Let's talk about the chain of events that have occurred this past week. We had 2 inspections. We had our electrical inspection that went well. We got called out on one item as it relates to smoke detectors and so on and so forth, but that doesn't come until final because the spaces that are open as far as in the ceiling area, which is a kitchen and 2 bathrooms, they don't require smoke detectors anyway. And whenever we do any projects where we have to open up ceilings and canon, we always come back as far as with the wireless system. Should anything occur in the basement or because the detectors are all interconnected, everything goes off all the way up to the 3rd floor. So that's taken care of. We'll do that once we clear out as far as for our final inspection. However, we have the issue as far as with plumbing. Our lines as far as in our floors and so on and so forth were fine. However, there were a lot of little things that we got called out on. Well, I shouldn't say a lot of little things, but it was little things where technically the inspector could have just said, you know what, just take care of it and send me a picture and I'll go ahead and pass it. But this particular inspector is, how might I put it, kind of a bone in my side, but it is what it is. You know, some of us grow up and act like adults and let bygones be bygones, but then some people like to kind of carry on as far as with things. And so with this whole situation, it was pretty much bleeder valves needed to be installed. An issue as far as with the water meter, which is not an area that we touch, but because we changed out water lines and so on and so forth, we had to add an additional valve coming off as far as the water meter. There was a duct as far as off the hot water tank that needed to be changed out from what was pre-existing to a 4-inch. And then there was the issue as far as with Studer vents because of the way that the plumbing ran as far as up to the 3rd floor. And so ran straight, it would have been fine, but because it ran and then it jumped up, we needed to install Studer vents. That's no issue. All of that was stuff that was done in a day. One day. Well, technically not even a day. So the Studer vents were installed. He said that he needed to see the traps, which the traps were exposed because, of course, there are doors at the back of the traps. And again, they were there. So it is what it is. And we're actually still waiting as far as on the violation list, but we just went with the master plumber because Bryce is an apprentice and just did all the corrections that were required. And so we're done. We're actually waiting as far as for our master plumber to go ahead and to schedule for the re-inspect. Like I said, it was petty stuff. It was like little things, but at the end of the day, it's the whole reasoning why, again, we pull permits, regardless of who inspects it. Anal-Lee's inspects it or another inspector inspects it.
Hold up, 5/8. 1/8 back, 7/8. And the way I do it is, well, in this area, there's a noticeable dip. So I gotta mix my process up a little bit and take kind of sort of 2 measurements within the same area before I move out. But after I get this done, then I move over to an area that I know is more consistently out of level. So it's more so like a diagonal line instead of like a fucking wavy line or something like that. A parabola. In this case, I'm going off of the subfloor that I already have down. Place my level on top of the edge, one end on the edge, the other end, I have something propping it up where it's level. And then I just take measurements at, specific intervals. So like I said, there's a noticeable dip in this area. So take those 2 measurements in there, move a little bit out of that area, take another measurement, and then I can increase. I'd say last week I spent about 2 days leveling out this floor and getting the subfloor down, only to realize that my level, after I finished this portion, the kitchen portion, and I moved into the nook, once I started that area, my level went out. It wasn't shooting, level or plumb lines anymore. And I didn't even realize it because I didn't check it. I didn't double check it. It was just level, now it's unlevel again. That right there is how off my laser level is. This line here, the level line. Tried and true from a spirit level. Contractor's best friend. This line is this digital shit that they got us moving to. That's my laser level line. And it is not a level line. It is wildly out of level and has caused me to have to rip up this entire side of subfloor and redo it manually.
How much time?
How much time has it taken me to redo this? It's gonna take me a few hours. It's gonna take a hell of a lot longer than it will with the laser level. Because the nice thing about this is that it just shoots a level line around the entire room. So you just go, like whatever your intervals are that you use to make your cuts, you know, you just go, pop the measure and tape, mark it off, mark it off, mark it off. Transfer it to a board, draw your straight lines, cut it, nail it down, you're good to go. That's how I was able to get that done so quickly. But this side, now I have to move over to, you know, like I said, do it manually, which is more tedious, but it's also more bulletproof. It's still gonna give me another laser. Like I said, that side is fine. After I moved over here, then it started fucking up. This entire side, fine. Check this after I discovered that that nook area was out of level. And so I had to take all the boards up, and now I'm getting everything done manually with a spirit level. And leveling the floor out in the rough stage is extremely important. Leveling the floor, leveling the walls, the ceiling. It's very important because it gives you the opportunity to have a much cleaner finished product. It also makes the covering stage, when you put the drywall or the trim work and all of that, it helps it go on a hell of a lot easier because you don't have, you know, 94 in this corner, and then 4 feet over, you got 93. So now you got these crooked, odd angle cuts and everything that you got to make going on the wall. Whereas if at least the floor and the ceiling are level, then your measurements from floor to ceiling will be even all the way around. They might differ by maybe about 1/8 of an inch, which is great, honestly. And even for the walls, plumbing up the walls and getting them flat will make sure that, you know, when the cabinets go on the wall, or even if it isn't a kitchen and it's like a, say like a foyer or a bedroom or something, and you set a nightstand against the wall, or you have like maybe a 5-foot coffee table or something like that that you want to put up against the wall, and once it goes against that wall, there won't be any crazy gaps in the back of it. You know, it'll just be a clean look. It just helps the finish look finished. Last couple things before I get out of here. I want to at least get as many of these shims cut, marked and cut as I can. Well, I gotta close off the rest of the drain and vent lines up on the 3rd floor so that I can put the drainage system under an air test. Well, that's it. And once everything goes up, the client isn't staring at it. You know, after you close at a job, like, there's something wrong here, but I can't quite put my finger on it. And what's wrong is the simple fact that during the rough stage, the proper care and precaution just simply wasn't taken when it should have been. That's why, you know, making sure that floors are level, walls are plumb and flat is so important during the rough stages.
This right here, which is the vent that goes out into the chimney area as far as for this hot water tank, was supposed to be upgraded from a 3-inch to a 4-inch. And then all this beautiful work right here. But that was already done. You didn't have an issue as far as with that. It was just that right there. That was a 3-inch and it needed to be a 4. We don't necessarily have a lead test on board where we actually know whether it's lead-based paint in the property or not. Then any method that we use in which to, we're stripping, cleaning, whatever, has to be a process that's lead safe. So meaning that no dry removal methods can be used. So everything needs to be wet so that we're not emitting any dangerous dust particles or anything into the air that could in turn harm anybody. And so that's one of the reasons why we're in homes, any home built prior to 1978, you see HEPA backs, air scrubbers that have HEPA filtration and so on and so forth in them, you know, and that's not only to safeguard us, but to also safeguard our homeowners. These are the original cabinet doors from some installed curios that are upstairs. They're almost 100 years old. They had several layers of paint. This has taken me an entire week to do. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 doors and then 3 drawers. And then I have 1 drawer face here because there's also a laundry chute inside of one of the cabinets. So yeah, so this one I just got off today because I couldn't get it off. I had to find a really skinny flathead in order to get it loose. But it's original as far as to the house. The owner wanted to preserve or wanted to maintain them. He wanted to keep them, but he didn't want them, you know, with all of this paint and everything on them. So it's being stripped down. And then the cabinets, the color of the cabinets that'll be going in the kitchen are, it's a translucent maple something. And so we're gonna try and match that with this, because this area is inside of the nook area, but since we've taken the wall out, it all combined as one space. And so these cabinets, as far as the coloring and everything, needs to match what's going in the kitchen. And so again, this was, you know, of course, several coats of citrus strip and then an acetone in order to take off the adhesive that I use. I also have an odorless mineral spirit that I utilize as well, because again, I don't want the client's house to be all fumey and everything, because again, my clients are still within the space. And so I need to use products that are safe as far as for me to be able to use while they're occupying this space. I utilize this product as well. I kind of like this one, but it's a little bit thicker. There's a paper that goes on after you install it, and then you wait 24 to 48 hours, and then it says that it removes 30 plus coats, but that's a damn lie, because I put it on here and this ain't got no 30 coats on it. And when I came to strip it off, I still had paint on it. So I ended up going back to tried and true, and guess what? I'm here. So that's where we at. Tomorrow, I should be done as far as with all of them. I may have a little bit more work as far as to do on this one, but tomorrow I should be sanding everything down. Depending on what the weather looks like outside, I may go outside and sand. It's a little bit fresher as far as outside, and I don't have to worry about being, you know, encompassed with the dust, even though I would have an air scrubber down here with me while I'm sanding and everything. 9 times out of 10 will be done outside, because I don't think I'm gonna have a festool here in time enough to start my sanding